everyone, it's Maddie.
And me, and today we're going to be playing a twist on the first sentence challenge.
We're going to be taking it in turns to read each other the first maybe paragraph of a book that we choose, and the other person has to guess which genre it is.
This is going to test our expectations for genre, and maybe we'll be able to identify what that crux point is of making you realise, oh, this is something else.
This is my first book. Even when there are no prisoners, I can still hear the screams.
My gut reaction is that it's dystopian.
They live in the walls like ghosts and echo in between footsteps. If you travel down deep into the belly of the castle, beneath the barracks where the guards sleep, beneath the telling room, that is where they linger behind the quiet moments.
Okay, so that's the Sin Eater's daughter, so it's fantasy because she's talking about a castle, and that is like key fantasy layout.
Obviously the first trigger was the setting for you, as soon as they mentioned that.
There was just something about being a prisoner though that just felt very dystopian in the way that you're like trapped.
The next book is this one. The first prom crisis is manageable.
Okay, well that's definitely contemporary because there's definitely no prom in any fantasy.
I'm reapplying my lip colour in the ladies' room when one of the swim team girls bursts in sobbing. Our senior captain, Mallory, is right behind her.
So it's like the minutiae of high school life.
I'll read you the conflict on this page. What's wrong? He's been dancing with Chloe for like half an hour. Mark's a jerk, he doesn't deserve you. What are your assumptions about like what this book is about overall?
I guess I think it's way superficial, and now I've opened my eyes to see that it's the names they gave us. That's like completely not what the book is.
Yeah, totally. It tricks you into thinking that it's not going to be something powerful.
When you were reading that out, I was like, oh, that's like Katie Finn or something. The really slightly younger YA where it's like, oh, just teen drama. And,
yeah.
But this is like a powerful, it's about loss and cancer and found family. But it is still effective because it gives juxtaposition between her old life when things were stereotypical and silly.
Because maybe I should read you the end of the first chapter as well to see how it's changed, because that is, in the bathroom I scrub the makeup off my face, I scrub until it hurts, until my skin is pink and clean, and when the warm water hits my hands I think up to God, we had a deal, how could you? Which gives a totally different vibe than the first sentence
it's a really
did.
different tone.
My next book is this. I'm going to die tomorrow.
I feel tricked because of the first one. I thought it was dystopian. I feel like this is fantasy.
That's what the Inquisitors tell me anyway when they visit my cell. I've been in here for weeks. I know this only because I've been counting the number of times my meals come.
That's so weird that like these two books are set in prison. Like,
yeah.
Is that cliche? Is that boring?
You're right in saying this is fantasy. I'll read you the end of the first chapter. They're normally quite long, aren't they? So
yeah. Gosh, I can't believe they both started in a prison.
Yeah, that's so strange.
That's a genre convention then. Fantasy, starting in prison.
That was weeks ago. Now you know how I ended up here, shackled to the wall of a wet dungeon cell with no windows and no light, without a trial, without a soul in the world. This is how I first came to know my ability. It's how I turned to face the end of my life, with the blood of my father staining my hands. It's the Young Elites.
The Young Elites, okay. I wasn't expecting the Young Elites. I thought it was going to be like Throne of Glass or something.
But it just shows like how similar they can all sound at the beginning.
Once a reader has read it once, they have that collection in the back of their mind when they think about fantasy stories, and reading books that do the same thing just like build on that expectation, and it makes it better then when you read something that doesn't do that because you're more surprised. Starting multiple books in prison means that you've got to be more interested in how they got there, and if then that is similar, like they've all killed men, then that just becomes more generic, so you have to read more of the book to get to the originality. It's like, do you put a book down quicker because it's the same as what you've already read?
Yeah, or do you keep going hoping it'll be different? Is this prologue?
What does that suggest to you immediately? There are prologues in contemporary, it's not like that doesn't happen, but that suggests fantasy to me as well.
When Aidan opens the door, Claire rises onto her tiptoes to kiss him, and for a moment it feels like any other night.
That sounds very contemporary. I feel like a death is coming though, just because of that phrasing. Something bad is going to happen.
Hi, she says, once she's stepped back again, and he smiles. Hi. They stare at each other for a few long seconds, neither quite sure how to begin. So, Claire says eventually. Aidan attempts a smile. So, I guess this is it.
Oh man, like that's such a nothingy beginning. Like it's loaded with so much stuff, but maybe it's a book where you have to like know what's going to happen or know the blurb or at least the author, because I think if it was stripped of its cover and its blurb and you just literally picked up that manuscript in a bookshop to buy, would you read that and think like, oh, am I hooked enough to continue? This is so far written in third person, and is chapter 1 in first?
No, it's all in third person actually.
Oh, okay.
So the end of the chapter is, Claire doesn't say anything. She wants desperately to believe him, but standing here on the edge of something so big it seems impossible. Trust me, Aidan says, reaching for her hand. A lot can happen in 12 hours. So what are you going to go for?
Well, contemporary. I knew it was contemporary. That's really interesting knowing it's that, because it's about the conversations and the things that they're not saying, so that beginning is actually perfect for the story. Taking the context out of things just like really changes everything.
And if you didn't know, this book is about a couple who have decided to break up just before they go to university, and now they're having like one last night together as a hurrah of their relationship. But something that's like so classic of contemporaries is to speak in these big terms, like when she said like the night of something so impossibly big or something like that. It's where like feelings take over more than anything else, and you got no sense of where they were, the setting at all. It was just entirely the characters, so they could have been in a blank room. This is my next choice. So it's official. My life sucks. That's divided into 3 sentences.
Immediately there's so much voice in the character. It sounds like Rose Hathaway from Vampire Academy, that very like snarky person who's very real with everything. This is a voice that can work literally in any genre, and it's always going to quickly endear the reader because you feel like you get to know them very fast.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'll say it's going to be a funny book so far.
I've always thought it, but this whole caravan trip has confirmed it. I am on a one-way road to loserdom, and it's not even the kind of road where you can pop into a petrol station and buy Haribo to make yourself feel better.
Okay, I really love the voice. Have I read it?
I don't think so.
Okay, well I need to.
Yes.
Super.
It is. As soon as you said funny, I was like, yep, that is entirely the word for this book. Like you said, character voice. It's the most important thing to the story because you're right in her head. You're meant to feel sympathetic towards Bella and all of the silly and cringy things she gets up to. So again, another perfect beginning for the story. This is my next choice. 10 years ago, on my 6th birthday, my father disappeared.
That speaks of like a thriller to me, like a lifelong quest. So I'll go like thriller contemporary.
No, he didn't leave. Leaving would imply suitcases and empty drawers and late birthday cards with $10 bills stuffed inside. Leaving would imply he was unhappy with Mum and me and that he found a new love elsewhere. None of that was true. He also did not die because we would have heard about it.
Again, the voice is really strong in this. I feel like it's going to be a relatable character. I'm going to say contemporary then, not thriller, but more of like coming of age. There's probably a romance.
Then
like there's sadness, but it's not going to be like pervading the whole story.
On my 6th birthday, my father took me to the park, one of my favourite places to go. It was a lonely little park in the middle of nowhere with a running trail and a misty green pond surrounded by pine trees. We were at the end of the pond feeding the ducks when I heard the jingle of an ice cream truck in the parking lot over the hill. When I begged my dad to get me a creamsicle, he laughed, handed me a few bills and sent me after the truck, and that was the last time I saw him. Later, when the police searched the area, they discovered his shoes at the edge of the water, but nothing else. So does that change your mind back to a more thriller?
I cut the idea now about like more romance and friends. Like I think it's going to be something that does pervade the whole book. She probably is going to be thinking about her dad the whole time.
I'm going to go to the end of the chapter. The first chapter is nearly 30 pages.
Wow, that seems like out of the range for a contemporary though.
And I don't think that the end of the chapter does anything to give you a further indication of what this genre is. So I think you might have to open your eyes and just see how this one will defy your expectations.
What?
The Iron King, which is a fantasy story, isn't it? About fae.
Yeah, but that is like more magical realism because it's about the weird things that happen in the human world. Because a lot of it, like the Changeling stories, are about fairies stealing. Oh, I kind of thought you would pick something like that, genre defying.
I didn't realise it would be. I picked this up thinking that it would be like, I'm a prisoner, or this is the fairy world that I live in. I'm really surprised that actually had a more contemporary vibe to it pretty much throughout the whole first chapter. No indication whatsoever besides this cover, so all you've got to go on is how it's marketed, not actually with the content.
That's funny that you said there were like 30 pages in the chapter, because I was like, well, that's not contemporary then, because those aren't long.
I haven't read this series, so after reading the first chapter, I actually really liked the voice of that, and this is my final pick. This is a good place. Behind the kitchen building, far enough away from the vegetable garden not to be seen by any gardeners. The ground is summer dry and the air vibrates with the buzz of insects.
I wonder if the mood of the contemporary is always split between whether you're focusing in on your main character and how they're feeling, or if you're more like descriptive and romantic in your writing style. So I would say this is probably on the mature end.
When we lie down, we're hidden from view in the long, wild meadow grass. Too near the perimeter fence, we'd be picked up on the CCTV camera. But here is perfect.
Oh gosh, okay.
Yeah, that took a turn.
That sounds weird. CCTV. She is a prisoner in some sense.
Definitely.
If it's fantasy, then it is still going into those expectations.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess that it's like dystopian then, or maybe it's a thriller. Is it a Sue Woolman book?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I thought like, containment. That's normally in a thriller, so...
You guessed it.
Yeah.
I was just interested to pick up a thriller and see how that was different to a contemporary, because some of them can, like One of Us is Lying, start in that same, like, the names they gave us way,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you're tricked into thinking there's not going to be something dramatic.
That's quite American though, just in general.
So B actually did really well. I feel like there was only one that really tripped you up. So those were all the books that I chose for B. It was like an equal mixture between contemporary and fantasy. What do you think you learned?
I learned that it's cliche to start a fantasy set in a prison, and that voice normally indicates contemporary, so it would be really interesting if you flipped that on its head and had a very vocal fantasy character.
In contemporary, the trivial can trick you into thinking that
Yeah.
it's just going to be superficial.
I feel like they all started at roughly the same tone, like none of them started in the midst of action. They were all like very gentle beginnings and didn't give a lot away in general about what the plot was going to be, but I feel like The Iron King was the one that posed the most interesting beginning and the most questions within the first page.
In the end, all of these managed to meet your expectations based on genre, but there are a couple surprises. Thank you everyone so much for watching. We'll be doing a part 2 to this video where B tests me on my genre expectations.
We post writing videos every Thursday, so don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and you can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Maddie and B.
We'll see you next time.